Hello, welcome back. I'm, of course, Statman Dave, and we are back for some more Premier League preview action. Today, we're talking about the best managers in the Premier League right now. For me, Unai Emery and Mikel Arteta. Both are excelling in different ways, with different football clubs, with different styles of recruitment. The Premier League truly is cooking right now. We'll also dive into Manchester United's game with Bournemouth, talk a bit about Scott McTominay, about Alejandro Garnacho, Manchester United's recent form, but also Bournemouth's recent form that really has started to change. And we'll finish things off talking about the game on Sunday, which I believe is between Spurs and Newcastle United. How is everybody doing in the chat? Welcome to the likes of Josh, Noel, Anna in the chat, Hams knocking around already. We're looking good today. We're looking fresh. Been a pretty busy week for me. Been down in London, been doing 5 Live. It has been going off. But I tell you what, the Premier League has been pretty sensational this week. You'd say from a fact of the performance of Aston Villa on Wednesday night was absolutely brilliant. This game, I just couldn't keep my eyes off it. Pardon me. The styles, how they opened the game up, Aston Villa, tactically what they did that really disarmed Pep Guardiola's Man City. So impressive. That's what we got today. That's what we got on today's show. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. We've also got a little announcement on today's show, so make sure you stay tuned to that. Very exciting. You've probably seen it already online, but there's something that we have started that I am so excited to bring you wonderful people. So in terms of the Premier League, we are rocking into the real business end of the season, as we like to call it. Currently, Arsenal do sit top of the Premier League. Super impressive from Arteta's side this season. Only conceded 14 goals. Defensively, they've been outstanding. But also Aston Villa sitting in third position is a real surprise, and something that we are going to have to discuss. So let's dive straight into that. Let's talk about those two sides. So I think they're really, at a super high level at the moment, and I just can't wait for the game this weekend. It's going to be an absolute banger. Shout out to Liam in the chat as well. Welcome to the chat. Liam, how are you doing? Do get into the chat. Let me know what you're waiting for this weekend. Are you going to watch Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen? Because they are very, very good at football. Alonso is going to be one of the best managers, I think, in recent years. His Leverkusen team is just an absolute joy to watch. Watched them this week. Did a little scouting mission looking at Tapsoba. Obviously, Manchester United need centre-backs because they decided to buy an injury-prone former Champions League and World Cup winner for a bit of fun. But I look at Leverkusen, the football, the style, brilliant. Combination between a little bit of relationalism on the ball, but also you're looking at that ability to play a positional game, wingers holding their width, players on the inside. They are absolutely fantastic. And Florian Wirtz is a joy to watch. Reminds me a lot of Mario Götze when he came through. Absolutely sensational. Josh in the chat, Villa are incredible. If they keep up this form, they could have an outside chance to challenge for the title. That is a big, big statement, Josh. But I tell you what, mate, I kind of agree with you. I think the one thing that Villa don't have is a backup number 9. They've got such a top quality number 9 on Ollie Watkins. The way that he's grown under Unai Emery has been so exciting. Slightly tweaked his game, but what you see from Watkins is that sort of that ability to not only create something out of nothing when the ball gets clipped into a channel and he can, score a goal out of nothing. We've seen that countless times this season. Brighton is a good example of that. But also the work rate. The work rate of Ollie Watkins is absolutely fantastic. His performances in recent weeks have been sensational. 8 goals and 6 assists in the Premier League. He's been flying since Unai Emery. Very, very good. Just jumping back into the chat. We've got a point from Mark coming in. Kosonu really impressed me against Dortmund. That's the partner of Tapsoba at Bayer Leverkusen. Let's just take a look at Bayer Leverkusen because, why not? Let's have a look at what they're doing this weekend. Leverkusen, I really recommend you guys going to watch them. Hopefully they'll win the Bundesliga this season, fingers crossed. But in terms of the quality that they've got, there's so many different levels to the team. We spoke quite a bit about Tapsoba and his ability But Kosunu is also very, very good. Right side centre-back, in possession, builds in the right-back position. This kid's going to be one of the best centre-backs in the world of football. He reminds me a lot of when Upamecano and Konate came onto the scene. That's where I put him in my bracket of like top quality centre-back. So he's exciting. Obviously, Tapsoba's exciting. Florian Wirtz is great. Boniface is an absolute star. This weekend, they're playing Stuttgart tomorrow at 2:30. So make sure you check that one out. Anna in the chat is saying there is a 6-way title race at the moment. The Premier League is great this season. It really is good. But let's dive into that first kind of talking point of today. Why Mikel Arteta and Unai Emery are the best managers currently in the Premier League. Well, let's start with the Arsenal man. Arteta came to Arsenal with a massive job on his hands. They needed to rebuild the club and bring back the glory days that haven't been seen since Arsene Wenger. Arteta's style of football is absolutely brilliant, but this season, I think defensively, with the signing of Declan Rice in defensive midfield, they've become so good. Conceded only 14 goals in the Premier League this season, which is the fewest of any club. On top of that, Arsenal attack with such vigour. I think one of the interesting things we've seen as well, the Granit Xhaka moving to Bayer Leverkusen, the emergence of Kai Havertz as this kind of left central midfielder. We saw Odegaard play a little bit deeper against Luton Town. Again, we're seeing Arteta evolve his team. That is a top quality trait of a manager. They're playing basically a 4-1-4-1 style this season. We're seeing the fullbacks attack more in the final third as well. Arteta has evolved his team. They're playing great football. And also they started the season quite slowly, but they're fourth in the Premier League, 4 goals scored. Not really been tactically outclassed this season. Top work from Mikel Arteta. Definitely one of the best managers this season. Number 2, of course, the 2 best managers of the year, Emery and Arteta. Emery's Villa have been simply brilliant. Their combination between this defensive 4-4-2 shape mid-block, they're pressing high in a 4-4-2 diamond, they drop deep into a brilliant mid-block, they're a low block, they attack in such an exciting manner with the likes of John McGinn tucking inside and Yuri Tielemans or Diaby playing as the number 10. Leon Bailey has been absolute breath of fresh air on the right-hand side. Their build-up has been superb. They've also got tactical variations, bringing the likes of Diego Carlos in, playing him as a centre-back like they did against Manchester City to really deal with Erling Haaland, allowing Bailey to play as a nominal winger, building with a back 3, throwing Luca Dean high. It's absolutely brilliant. But the best thing for me from Villa this season has been them playing out from the back. They've been absolutely superb. They build very much in a 4-box-2 structure. The 2 sort of wide players or nominal attackers will move into the channels and they'll create a box in midfield. This overloaded Manchester City's press. That is such a big thing to say. And I think the biggest statistic for why Unai Emery is one of the best managers in the Premier League right now with Mikel Arteta is that Emery's Aston Villa kept Manchester City to just 2 shots. That is the fewest shots City have taken in a single game in Pep Guardiola's reign. They also took the most shots against the Pep Guardiola team. Villa, absolutely fantastic. Emery deserves a lot of credit with, of course, Arteta. But we've also got to look, but the guys behind the scenes, Edu, Monchi, doing great jobs as well, really building dominant sides. Just going to jump back into the chat and see your thoughts and your opinions. Shout out to Milk. Hello, how are you doing? And we've got, hey Dave, any sight about Manchester United signings in January? The issue at the moment with Manchester United signing in January is that the deal has not gone through for Ineos to take 25% control. Nothing will happen until that happens. Manchester United just need to hurry up with what they're doing. If they don't, there could be a real lack of movement in January with a squad that needs massive movement. It's a big thing. So probably just, Todibo coming in January. But anyway, really interesting. Junior in the chat, I believe Trossard and Zinchenko will play against Villa instead of Havertz and Kivor. Interesting one. I was actually going to talk a little tactically about that. Really good shout. I think with the Villa shape and structure, where you've potentially got the issues is either, John McGinn or Tielemans or the nominal, wide midfielder moving into the inside channels, or alternatively, attacking the space. Let's say if Kivor's jumped in, the space on the outside, or let's say Ben White's maybe jumped in on John McGinn, and then in the channels for the 2 strikers. Very very So maybe going with a 3-2-5 structure, the traditional Arsenal setup that we've come to see under Arteta, with Zinchenko back into the team. And Trossard, whose work rate was absolutely fantastic in his last full appearance in the Premier League, could be a better way for Arsenal because, you can't allow Villa the freedom of the park. You can't allow Villa to do what they did, to play out from the back. You need to kind of change. And obviously, with that build-up we mentioned there, with the box created and the two wide players, or the two forwards being wide, a back three with another player inside would allow you to press high, as we can see here. And basically, it'll be a lot of work for Gabriel dealing with that flank. So now we've got, bodies on two of the attackers. Got a spare man in William Saliba in midfield, and we've covered their box. This would be the correct setup for Arteta. Zinchenko inverting from left back. We've not actually seen that recently. The last game that Arteta did that, I think, to really good effect was against Everton. Zinchenko fantastic in that match. So will be interesting to see what Arteta does, but he should go with this build-up structure in this game. What positions do United need to upgrade in your opinion? United need to buy two centre-backs. They need to buy a right-back, a left-back to add to the squad depth. I think they did a starting left-back and move Luke Shaw to left centre-back. I think they need to sign a 6. They need to sign an 8. They need to sign a right-winger, potentially, depending on whether Ahmad is going to be loaned out. And they need to buy another number 9. There's a lot of work to do in that Manchester United squad. The Villa player in the chat, welcome. Villa fans, get involved. Big fan of Aston Villa this season. They've been absolutely brilliant. Probably my favourite team to watch in the league. That's how good I like Aston Villa. Tomorrow will be a challenge. I hope we can get a win at home. If we don't win, or potentially challenging for the title, absolutely. So some statistics from Wednesday night for Aston Villa. So I was on 5 Live on Wednesday doing the show with Chapman, Mark Chapman, that is, of course. The Villa statistics at home are absolutely redonkulous. In a sense of, you're looking at the win rates with Emery, they're brilliant. So Emery's had 20 Premier League games at home since he's taken charge at Aston Villa. Villa have won 16 games. They've got an 80% win rate at home. That is equal of Pep Guardiola at home. That's only bettered by Jurgen Klopp in that time. Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool have got an 84% win rate since Emery moved to the Premier League. Villa are literally ranked second, which is absolutely sensational. And that's something that you've got to give Emery credit for. He's turned Villa Park into a fortress. Villa, of course, are a great, historic Premier League side. And it's really nice to see them, competing and punching above their weight, because that hasn't probably happened since the days maybe of Martin O'Neill. You'd say that Villa have been a top quality side. Obviously, the experiment with Steven Gerrard was not quite great. But in terms of Aston Villa and their setup, their style, they've got so much variation. Against Man City, we did see Ezri Konsa at right back, not Matty Cash. Diego Carlos came in, as we mentioned, to build that back three in possession, which you can clearly see in the average position. That shape is classic Spanish 4-4-2. 2 interiors, full-back high, 1 player playing wide. But you can see what I was talking about with that box. The box created by Boubacar Kamara, Douglas Luiz, John McGinn and Yuri Tielemans. It's so fresh, these tactics. They're really, really good. I've just been so impressed by the different ways of doing it. And obviously that comes from a wide player moving high. That comes from the number 10 dropping deep to get in, and then Ollie Watkins moving into the wide area. Tactically, it's so spot on. And I think one of the big things with the game against Villa that was so impressive is that even Diaby wasn't starting, and that shows the depth that Villa have created. They have got 2 brilliant left-footed dribbling attackers in Moussa Diaby and Leon Bailey. The way the squad's been built is fantastic. Leon Bailey was a massive part of their win against Manchester City. He was so dangerous on the right-hand side. But I think for Villa and where they're going to go next and their evolution is really just to continue what they're doing. Continue with the good recruitment. Continue buying these surprise players in a sense. Diego Carlos and Pau Torres have been linked with all the top clubs in European football. Same with Zaniolo. Same with Moussa Diaby. And if they can build that out and continue their growth, they're really going to push high. Do I think they can win the league? Probably not, because they've not got a true backup to Ollie Watkins. But Giroud's obviously been really good for them. You can't, again, the Premier League is so crazy that I couldn't say that they're definitely not. The one thing I'd say, back end of the European campaign, obviously Emery's big in those European competitions. Could that cost them a little bit? Maybe. But their performance against City was absolutely sublime. So many good performances. Boubacar Kamara, 3 chances created, completed 89% of his passes, 100% of his dribbles, 100% of his 2 tackles won, 3 interceptions. He has been one of the signings of the last few years. It's been absolutely brilliant at defensive midfield. Free transfer. Man United, what are you doing? Absolute another face palm for Manchester United. But also John McGinn. The way that he opened the team up and, Harry pressed, in the first half, it was, most passes in the final third, most chances created, most tackles won, most dribbles completed. He won 14 of his 25 duels. He is absolute Duracell battery if there is one. And I think tactically, something that Arsenal need to deal with against Aston Villa in the Premier League game that's coming up this weekend is the build-up. The build-up's been so good from Aston Villa. And as we spoke before, the build-up very much is kind of how it's on screen right now, where you have that box in midfield and you have the two wide players. This is exactly the same as the build-up of Brighton. Just different players. So for Brighton, the two strikers drop off the line and they made that top box. And the two wide players hold the depth and the width of the team. For Aston Villa, it could be one of the wide players, but usually Ollie Watkins and a wide player, or if it's Diaby and Watkins, it's those two guys pulling wide. They've been absolutely fantastic in those instances. And they scored a goal playing out from the back against Manchester City. And City, are regarded as one of the greatest teams of all time. You'd say that. They won the treble. They were very good last season. But the way that Villa played through, simply sublime in so many different moments. We've just picked out two here, one being the goal, but this inside 5 minutes for a Leon Bailey chance. And we start to see how Villa build. Obviously, ball going to Diego Carlos, Emi Martinez in possession. We can already see the diamond starting to form. Yuri Tielemans is sitting in the inside right position. Douglas Luiz will drop back off into the deep defensive midfield position, and we'll see John McGinn step in a second. And the beauty of Aston Villa is not only can they play through the lines, with flat pass and so forth, but they're also not afraid to go long as they kind of do in this move. Out the back from Emi Martinez. Shipped to Bal Torres. You can see the Manchester City press is so aggressive. Very aggressive in central midfield. Silva's applying the press. Got fullback super high. Phil Foden's tucking in. They've committed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players high up the pitch. So you could take these players out by playing through, or alternatively, you take them out by simply playing over the press. And this is something that's been catching City out. We've said this a few times. Leipzig did it. Spurs did it. Chelsea have done it. But City's pressing structure is a little bit is questionable this season. There is outballs like this, dropping the ball into attacking midfield. McGinn's received that. The centre-back has had to jump on him, and now there is a humongous problem. Villa have created a faux counter-attack by playing out from the back, going over City's press. John McGinn with a brilliant spin on John Stones. And now this is where the problem comes in, is that technically you've got a 4-on-4 for City, or alternatively, you've got a passer and two runners against the back two. Gvardiol does quite poorly to, he's dropped a little bit too deeper than Ruben Diaz. Ball goes over the top. Great chance for Leon Bailey. Good first touch and sort of a weak strike at the goalkeeper, or directionally very, very weak. But that all comes from Villa playing out from the back. Villa are so underrated out of the back. I think that's one of the big things to take away from today. Watch Villa playing out from the back. It's a little different. It solves problems slightly different ways, but cheeky little long ball, you're at City's defence. Absolutely fantastic. We take the goal as well that Leon Bailey scored. Another situation where they play out from the back. Douglas Carlos on the ball. And this time obviously not going aerially, but looking into the feet. But we can clearly see again the back four on screen. We can see the two defensive midfielders, Kamara and Douglas Luiz. McGinn's cut in, sort of inverted into the interior position. And Leon Bailey's dropped off into the interior position. This is tactically brilliant. This is really very, very, very good stuff. But in terms of this move, they've not gone long, but they've used a flat pass into the feet of the interior. Stepped over by Yuri Tielemans, who slightly flicks it on, and now we're in. Same situation as last time. Obviously, this is a brilliant individual goal, but the way that Villa have created this moment, all down to the tactics, all down to the drills on the training ground. Absolutely fantastic to see a team do this in the Premier League. Bailey drives forward, very unselfish. Ollie Watkins takes two players away. Bailey then cuts back on himself. Shot on his weaker right foot, deflected in. Villa beat Manchester City. Absolutely sensational. Very, very good stuff from Emery. Really, really good stuff. Obviously, Leon Bailey grabbed the goal, was sensational, but Villa as a team, and look at these statistics. I mentioned before, 22 shots to 2. You'd think City were Aston Villa with those statistics. 2.3 expected goals. They let City only have 0.65 expected goals created. That's their worst of Pep Guardiola's reign. But the way they harried, they pressed, it was brilliant. And Arsenal can have a big, big job to stop Villa because they are absolutely flying right now. Just jumping back into the chat. The Villa player, if we play the way we played against City in the match, let's flip to that. Just realised I'm not passing that. There we go. Bang, bang, bang. If Villa do play, they did against City, which will be brilliant. It could be, hold on, it could be like City. We made it hard for them in our first half. We kept Foden, Haaland and Alvarez quiet. Roderick in the chat, best player in the Premier League is Declan Rice. Keep him quiet. We win. Great point from Roderick in there. Mahad is talking Eric Ten Hag injuries. We'll definitely come on to that very, very soon. But I do think that this Villa team will cause problems for Arsenal, and it's how Arsenal do set up in a pressing structure. Big shout out to Radu in the chat as well. Welcome back, my good friend. So in terms of Arsenal and their defensive structure, mentioned they may want to defend more 3-2-5 to truly kind of squeeze Aston Villa. There's going to be a lot of work of the front three, dealing with the back 3-4. Villa, you've obviously got Gabriel Jesus. His energy is going to be really important. Going to go man for man in midfield. Zinchenko inverting and dealing with Yuri Tielemans. Gabriel in a 1v1. Now, this is the battle where I think, Villa could get some really good joy out of that. Looking at Leon Bailey, obviously, brilliant game against Manchester City, but I think, he came off injured. Saying that, though, Diaby could come straight into the team. Same setup, Diaby from that right-hand side. Diaby versus Gabriel, for me, would be a battle that Gabriel would lose. I think Diaby is one of the most dynamic, attacking players in the league. He's so good at using that, yard of pace he's got to create opportunities. Watkins on the back stick. So it's going to be very important for William Saliba to, make sure he's very aware and doubling up and, them very much operating in a back three when they're pressing high. Of course, in the defensive third, when they get back settled, 4-4-2, Zinchenko drops back in, and the rest of the team works well. But for Arsenal, it's going to be big. I think the other thing that I like about Aston Villa is how they build up, is how they press their opponents building up. And that's going to be a big thing for them against Arsenal. Very much, if we're going the front two of Yuri Tielemans and Watkins, John McGinn from the wide area. Douglas Luiz is the one that kind of jumps and plays that high pressure role for Aston Villa when they're squeezing at the kind of high end of the pitch. And I think that's an area where Arsenal need to be really, really careful with kind of how they're playing in that zone. Just going to organise the players. So the big thing, obviously, the 4-4-2 press is the best pressing structure high. All the good teams use it. City use it when they look good. Arsenal use it. Villa use it. One of the centre mids jumps out of that 4-4-2 block. I think for Arsenal in this game, what I think they need to do is use the width of the pitch. So they need to be connecting that back four. Arsenal at times have very much been building in the kind of 4-1-4-1 structure. So one of the things that you can kind of get around this midfield diamond that Villa will press with, it is using the width. It's getting the ball to the fullbacks. It's pulling that diamond over, squeezing that diamond over, and then looking to maybe play back and get the switch to Gabriel Martey. Obviously, probably not direct from Ben White. Maybe coming through William Saliba to Gabriel and then going out, or Declan Rice if he can turn, shift a little bit of pressure and play out. It's all about drawing that block over and then having a 1v1 with either Saka or Martinelli with the ball at their feet. But that all comes from working it round, popping it back out, drawing that diamond over and then going through. The big thing Aston Villa do well as they sit in a really disciplined mid-block. So their mid-block drops to a very much a 4-4-2 structure. They're super compact. And what they do is they basically make you try and play through them. And that's going to be big for Arsenal. And I think one of the things Arsenal should do in this match is very much drop Martin Odegaard, when they're in this position. Invert Zinchenko, build with a kind of three forwards, maybe, a Trossard or even a Kai Havertz playing off a Gabriel Jesus could work really well. The big thing that they do follow you out, Aston Villa. They will go man-to-man if the striker drops off the line. So it's about, can you pull the striker out and then attack that space? Be it Kai Havertz, be it Leandro Trossard, or Bukayo Saka, or Martinelli making that run. The big thing, Gabriel Jesus is the joker in this pack today. So I think dealing with that's going to be a big thing for Aston Villa. We know what Villa can do on the forward. We spoke about how they use those interiors to break the pressure and score goals. That's a super important way for this game today. So just jumping into any of the statistics that we may not have said from this matchup. Guys, get into the comments, of course, with your score predictions. It's a big one. Aston Villa versus Arsenal, two of the best teams in the Premier League. It's going to be a corker at 5:30. Ollie Watkins, a man massively in form. 14 goals and assists in the Premier League this season. Only Salah and Haaland have got more than him right now. Ollie Watkins has scored 8 goals in the Premier League. Haaland 14, Salah 10. And I think the assists have been very impressive. 6 assists for Ollie Watkins, which just shows that he's not only scoring the goals, he's making things happen. And I think that's a side Arsenal do need to control Ollie Watkins. Mikel Arteta said in an interview this week, you've basically got to stop Ollie Watkins getting the ball. And that's how you deal with him, which is a great compliment. It really is. Roderick in the chat. Dave, how do you keep Rice quiet? Well, I think it's that pressure we spoke about before in the diamond. You've got to squeeze him high. You've got to put him under. You've got to try and nick the ball off him. And I think that's coming from the blind side in there. But I do think, in situations where Arsenal are building, it's very much having the two forwards trying to disrupt that Arsenal build-up structure. Be it Zinchenko and Declan Rice in that sense, or if Odegaard drops, it's just being very wary of that. I do think that's going to be a big move. I think number one, for Arsenal, Odegaard dropping off the line, Jesus coming off the line, and attackers moving in, Odegaard to overload. I think for Aston Villa, having a John McGinn being aggressive, being ratty on him, and following him could work really well. And then for Villa, it is breaking into those channels, it's counter-attacking into those channels, but also, as I mentioned before, playing through the press. Guys, score predictions, do get them in. We'll see some other stats and so forth. Declan Rice is just absolutely flying from a stats perspective. 92% pass accuracy, making around 58 passes per game. 3 goals and an assist. His goals came against Manchester United, Chelsea and Luton. United won the game. Luton won the game. He's been absolutely sensational. Carl in the chat is going to go for Aston Villa 1, Arsenal 2. I think this game could show how Arsenal could really challenge more for the title this season. LJ, hey Dave, what do you think about the Arsenal goalkeeper situation? Sell Ramsdale for Diogo Carlos in January. I think that you definitely, at the moment, obviously David Raya had a little bit of a stinker midweek. I think one of the goals, definitely the corner goal was his fault. The one that went underneath him, I thought was just quite a good finish, to be honest. When you're a young striker coming through the ranks or you're getting coached, it's all about, can you put the ball near the keeper's feet? Because it's really difficult for keepers to save if you're going for a nutmeg or so forth. In there. Dan, nice of you to call Gabby the Joker. I find it still baffling. Bigger and supposedly stronger guys. Can't get the ball off him. Him versus Carlos will be an interesting battle. It really will be. Josh is going to go 2-1 Villa. Same with Anand. Mahad's going to go 3-1 Villa. Junior's going to go 2-2. Roderick going to go 2-1 Villa. And the Villa player going with 2-0 Villa. Not Villa here, flying in form. It's one of those situations where Villa absolutely look great. Villa look very good in those those moments, and credit to Unai Emery. He's had done such a superb job, Unai Emery, with Aston Villa, and that's kind of why they've massively excelled this season. 3rd in the Premier League. Who would have called it? I think we had them quite high up. I think we may have had Villa in 5th in our Premier League preview, which is brilliant for Villa, but 3rd right now after 15 games. They only lost 3 times. Pretty incredible. And I do think that the other teams that we kind of spoke about a lot, Burnley, we've had a bit of a stinker with. They've been defensively far too open, but Bournemouth are really starting to kick on, and that's kind of the interesting side with Bournemouth. It's taken them around 11 games to kind of sort themselves out. what's really started to improve is their pressing and their ability to win the ball back has been, really, really good. And that's when Iraola came in, we knew that he was this kind of hybrid pressing guy. He's going to squeeze teams. They were going to go man for man. It was almost like a throwback to when Jurgen Klopp joined the Premier League, that there was a team that'd be very much a gegen-pressing side. And it's taken them a while to get there. But you could argue right now they're creating a great quality of chance with, that the pressing, the squeezing. All started with the 2-0 win over Newcastle United, and I think they've had to find balance in midfield, and it has been since Justin Kluivert's come into the side and Christie's moved a little deeper, and it's been a Cook Christie midfield that we're starting to see the real Aston Villa, and a team that works supremely hard off the ball and squeezes high and jumps and so forth. And from that kind of average position perspective, even though they've not had much of the ball, it's in the opponent's half. And I think that shows this new style that they're going to squeeze you high, they're going to win the ball in high areas, and that's where their actions are going to be. And I do think Christie Cook in midfield has found that balance for them to squeeze and them to be super aggressive. And we saw that again against Bournemouth, the 2-0 win midweek. And United are going to struggle because they will go man for man with you. They'll press you super high man for man. And we've seen how sloppy United could be building out from the back. And, I think that you do need to give a lot of credit to Iraola in terms of it's taking him time to get to this point and get to this level. But they're on a great level right now. Our Bournemouth. So it's something that they kind of, we expected for it to happen. It took a little bit longer than kind of what we expected in a sense of them, coming through and getting to that level. But right now they are definitely at that level of being a top Premier League team. And it's unfortunate United are playing them when they've figured it out, where they've really figured out what they're doing. Because United, as we know, have struggled to play out from the back all season, or all the entirety under Ten Hag's reign. They have it in spells, don't they? They really have it in spells. Got some more score predictions coming in from that Arsenal game. James is saying 1-0 to the Arsenal. Seb is saying 3-2 Arsenal. Last minute, Kai Havertz winning goal. Science now. How would you describe Kamara's main skills? He seems to do a lot of the small things well. Yes, that is a great way to describe him. Science now. I think how I would describe him, his main skill sets are ball retention. He makes the right decisions. He makes good decisions. He makes the basic decisions really, really well. He tackles well. He intercepts well. He reads well. He moves tactically very, very well. But the big thing why I thought he'd be very good for Manchester United, or a signing for any Premier League team, was his ball retention was really good, and this short passing was excellent, and that is really needed in certain teams. I think you've got different players. Let's say you've got a progressive player and you've got a player that's going to retain possession. That's the best sort of blend in midfield. You've got one player that's going to keep it moving, that's going to keep the opposition moving around. Then you've got the other guy that's going to break the lines. And that's what Kamara is, the guy that keeps possession going, which is a really, really important thing. Brolly is going to go 3-2 Arsenal, comeback win as well. Brim, Arsenal fan here, very, very nervous. Yeah, I would be, Dave. It's to be, we'll reframe that. Just be excited. Like, it could be a really good game of football. Think how both teams squeeze and play and so forth. Like, if Arsenal go direct at times, they could really catch the Villa highlight out. Radu, do you think the upside of having a left-footed centre-back in the left centre-back spot exceeds the downside of having someone not having Varane's quality, in the case Shaw plays left-back? I think I do like the left-footed, right-footed centre-back pairing. I think that would be what I'd like. I'd also quite like to go 2 left-footers. I think that would be very, very good as well. The reason why, obviously, it opens up different passing lanes and so forth. It's just from a really simplistic perspective, it's kind of you either playing open. So let's just quickly whip this tactical board out. So, a left-footed centre-back, the passes are going to curve like that, if that makes sense. Let's do that again. So they're going to curve kind of like that. So when you're running onto the ball, it's going to come into your stride. Similar with the right side. So let's say it's Maguire. It's going to be the same thing, where it's going to curve towards you as you're coming onto the ball. The other way, obviously, if you're a right-footed player, it curves kind of into your path. So it's kind of like you're taking the first touch is going to be more positive if you're playing a natural left footer on that side, a natural right footer on the other side. The interesting side, obviously, when you play, a lot of teams play right-footed centre-backs, so a lot of the passes will kind of curve out. Imagine, though, you go the other way and you play two left-footed centre-backs, and then you've got kind of that left-footed passing lane, which we don't usually have from right centre-back. We don't usually have that kind of, let's say there's two defensive lines and you can break one of them with a reverse pass with the left foot. I'd love to see that. Double left footers at centre back. That's what I want to see. Buy as many left footers as possible in there. But let's move on to talk a little Manchester United. Obviously, Bournemouth are going to squeeze so high from playing out from the back. When we look at Manchester United players, one player has saved Manchester United's season. Scott McTominay should be the number 10 for Manchester United right now. Scott McTominay scored 5 goals in the Premier League, more than any other Manchester United player. He's also beaten his best ever season, and his goals against Chelsea were absolutely fantastic. The volley, left foot, right foot volley against Chelsea, and then the Garnacho cross with Scott McTominay getting onto the far side to win the game for United were absolutely sublime. Scott McTominay's won Manchester United 7 points in the Premier League this season. Without them, they'd be around 13th in the league. But I think the big problem for Manchester United at the moment is how open they are in midfield, where we see tactically the defensive line too deep. We see two very much number 10s, and the space between the midfield and the defence is absolutely massive. And I think one of the concerns for me at the moment is that teams, Galatasaray, Chelsea, whoever we want to mention, Newcastle United, have just dribbled through United's midfield line. What United should be moving to is a double pivot of some sort. What I think with Scott McTominay, and because of his form right now, and you look at his strengths and weaknesses, his strengths are in the penalty area. That's where he's been very, very good for United. You'd say his weaknesses are kind of in those deeper areas, getting on the ball and maybe not playing as progressive as we'd want. So I think the solution for Manchester United needs to be Bruno dropped back to number 8 role. We've seen Bruno play number 8 for Manchester United and been absolutely brilliant. He averages around 11 progressive passes per game last season as a number 8. Progressive. And I think the big thing with United, not only has their build-up been a bit poor this season, but how many times recently have we seen Bruno Fernandes literally track from the final third, chasing, and having to make a tackle. This is where I feel this position for Bruno, playing more as an 8, not as a number 10, in this kind of 4-1-4-1 structure for United, would help Manchester United, because defensively they'd be a lot better. Bruno's got that. We know that he can make tackles. He was so good against Chelsea, winning the ball back through tackles and interceptions. Play him a little bit deeper, allow him to be progressive, get McTominay into the penalty area, and we should have a better Man United. I'm not talking like super fixed, but I'm talking that he's playing as an 8. He's starting as an 8 versus starting as a 10. Very much, if he wants to move into that attacking area, cool, balance it up with the fullback inverting, but very much Bruno from a deeper area to play through. This is going to be vitally important against Bournemouth, because Bournemouth are going to squeeze high. And if United leave their shape like in this moment, where there'll be pressure on the back of the two number 10s as they drop deep. From Bournemouth, they'll squeeze super high. There'll be pressure on the back of Amrabat as well when United are building. It's going to be super important. I'd probably say if Erik ten Hag does want to play Bruno Fernandes high as he has been doing, you've got to have your fullbacks inverting, and both of them inverting into central positions. And United building in a sort of Tottenham Hotspur, Ange Postecoglou 2-3-5 or 2-3-4-1, however you want to describe it, very much inverting both fullbacks. That'll stop the pressure in central midfield for Bournemouth, because then you'll have an issue where Bournemouth now will have to jump onto the fullbacks from central midfield. It'll create big areas of space for Bruno and, of course, Scott. What I think would be better for Manchester United, though, is Bruno being one of these deeper players. Reguilon, sitting in a kind of a halfway house. Garnacho maybe moving a little bit more inside to allow Reguilon to provide the width in the final third. But United building kind of in this 2-3 structure with Bruno Fernandes at the base of midfield to control the tempo and to control the play. I think that's so important in this game. Inverted fullbacks, Bruno Fernandes, or inverted fullback, a wing back high on the left-hand side in Sergio Reguilon, and allow them to play through. If you beat Bournemouth's press, you'll get at the back four. Garnacho has been absolutely cooking in recent weeks, so that's a big reason why United need to kind of play in that moment. And Alejandro Garnacho has been the star for United this season. He's been the guy that's just made things happen. And I think when you're looking at where Man United have been and how they've been kind of grown and so forth, he's the guy in form. Alejandro Garnacho is the one that's making things happen against sides. You take his performance against Chelsea midweek. He had 8 shots against Chelsea. He created 3 chances in the match. He was absolutely sensational. So dangerous to deal with. So tricky. Ran Reece James into the absolute ground. But he's someone that's making things happen for Manchester United. And you're looking at amongst Man United players, he's got the most dribbles. He's second for shot creating actions. He's third for chances created. He's contributed to 13 shots against Chelsea, 46% of those, but his work rate's been very, very good. Defensively, he's not switched off, and I think that's a big reason why he's in the team right now for Manchester United, and it has to continue. He's playing such good football and so fresh, and I would quite like to see him against Bournemouth playing in a slightly inside channel position. Reguilon pushed up on that left-hand side. Garnacho maybe operating inside left, so when he's received the ball in this area, he can directly attack the Bournemouth centre-backs. That's where they're weak. They push both their full-backs up quite high in pressure, so if you can get Garnacho in that inside channel on the ball, Reguilon the overlap, that is a way for United to create. Bruno deep, Garnacho high inside left is exactly what I want to see. Jumping back into the chat, guys. A lot of chat there, so I'll jump back in now. My voice is feeling great, guys. 200 of us in here. Wonderful. Smash like, guys. We're only on 46 likes. Let's get that up. Let's get it up. Into the chat, statistically one of the hardest defences to score against. Is that in terms of, that's Villa or Arsenal, I imagine. Kobe Mainoo and Amrabat. Radu, is it possible we'll see Amrabat Mainoo double pivot? We'll stuck with the lone 6. I think Radu, we're going to be stuck with the lone 6, hence why I think Bruno needs to just drop and play as play deep in possession. I think United should be playing Amrabat and Mainoo every single week. But Erik ten Hag appears to believe that both of them are 6s and they can't play together for some reason. The same reason why Amrabat's not played for Man United, I don't know. I really don't know. Safran Amrabat before this week had played 200 minutes in the Premier League at defensive midfield. His performance against Chelsea was brilliant. Right, it's not beat around the bush. 92% pass accuracy, completed 2 out of his 2 dribbles, 4 out of his 5 tackles won in the game. Made more ball recoveries than any other player on the pitch. Anchored the midfield. But I do think that we do need Bruno Fernandes in a deeper position, not in this high position. You can see how open United are there. It's such a weird average position as that. And I do think it's kind of looking at it from that perspective. From a Bournemouth perspective, who's the danger men for Bournemouth? Of course, you're looking at Solanke. He's been in great form in recent weeks. 3 goals in his last 5 games. He's always going to be a threat. Always got a little bit of quality on the ball. But I really like Semenyo as well. A goal and assist in his last 3 games. Was superb against Aston Villa. Was a real threat cutting in from that left-hand side. In terms of just directly taking on his opponent, scored a great goal. And I don't know the goal that was ruled out for VAR, maybe. But he's a threat. Semenyo's just a top quality player. And Kirkez on the overlap. So I think it's all about United dealing with that right-hand side of Bournemouth. Kirkez got an assist in the game against Aston Villa with a lovely little low cross after they won the ball back high. United just need to not allow them to win the ball back high. And that's the biggest thing. And that's why, if it wasn't, Bruno Fernandes playing in that deep role, and you had a Kobe Mainoo coming in, you'd have to sacrifice Scott McTominay, and that's what you'd have to go with. And then the double pivot would be Amrabat and Kobe Mainoo, same attacking structure with Bruno Fernandes wide right. But I don't think you can deal with not having Scott on the team right now. Hence why I think Bruno's got to be the deep one. Scott playing high. Scott's just scoring. He's in the form of his life. The guy can finish. The guy has got a really good leap on him. He's a threat. And I think with Rasmus Højlund, of course, the goals haven't come yet for him, but they will come. He's taken attention of a lot of defenders, and this late moves from Scott McTominay playing in a kind of the Frank Lampard role, shall we say, arriving into the box frequently. The spaces open up by Rasmus Højlund in there. So yeah, just in terms of Bournemouth, Kirkez, Semenyo are the 2 big players I'd watch out for. Ryan Christie as well has just shown real good quality in central midfield. Super aggressive. Won 6 of his 7 tackles against Aston Villa. He's someone that has been playing at number 10 for Bournemouth, but now I feel like they've found a little bit more balance with Christie playing deeper, with Lewis Cook playing as that holding midfield. They are difficult, and they are, Bournemouth are in form. They're one of the form Premier League teams for me right now. They're causing teams a lot of problem with their pressure. Roderick, Semenyo played very well against us, but should have been sent off. Yeah, he should have been sent off. And it was a second booking that he didn't get that was a bit dodge. Borley as well. I thought Tavernier was excellent against us. Tavernier's always got a bit of a spark about him. But similar to like any of the Villa attacking midfielders or wingers, obviously, Sinistera played against Crystal Palace. Bournemouth have got great depth in those wide spots, be it Semenyo, be it Sinistera, Tavernier. There's a lot of quality there, so it's going to be difficult for United, and 1v1 it's going to be very, very important. Aslan Khan, I don't think McTominay can play against the press, so Meno should play in my opinion. McTominay off the bench when Bournemouth have fatigue. I think Erik ten Hag is going to be very stubborn with his team selection, and I agree. I think that United should play players that are press resistant against the pressing side, such as Kobbie Mainoo and Amrabat Deep, but I don't think that happens with Erik ten Hag, and that's been one of my frustrations with Erik ten Hag recently. There's been a lack of pragmatism. And pragmatism isn't a defensive thing. Pep Guardiola is the best pragmatic manager in the world, but he does pragmatic things in possession. He changes things to change the structure and to change the way that they roll. So it's frustrating. Erik ten Hag has been super frustrating in that mindset. Hopefully United put in a good display, make my week a lot better. I don't want to see Victor Lindelof play for United ever again, but hey, that's me. When you talk about leaks, he's got a bit of a bathroom problem, I think. He's got a bit of a leaky sink, should I say. So, yeah, Victor Lindelof, quality-wise, Luke Shaw is a better left centre-back than him. And we saw that in, which game was that, where he had a stinker? The Newcastle game, was it? Who knows? But yeah, score predictions for this match. Manchester United versus Bournemouth, 3 o'clock in the Premier League. Do get into the chat and let me know your score predictions. Let's round off today's chat talking about Tottenham Hotspur versus Newcastle. That's the Sunday 4:30 game. Tottenham could be without Heung-min Son. They've been ravaged by injury. Obviously, the two key players this season, Ricky van der Ven. Ricky or Vicky? I'm confused. And obviously James Maddison in there as well as Sarr in midfield. They've lost quite a lot of key players so far this season. They're still sticking to that style. They're still sticking to how they play through the lines. They build up in such a great way. But I do think the concern for this game is that Newcastle, when they are faced with a possession-based team that leaves space on the break, they really go. The one concern for Newcastle, of course, is their injury record as well at the back. Dan Burns out, Sven Botman's out, Lascelles is doubtful for the match, so maybe Emil Kraft will play centre-back, which could lead this to be a super open game. Really surprising result midweek, them losing to Everton 3-0. Obviously, Everton are a brilliant side this season, organised really well. Dwight McNeil's playing some of the best football of his career, goal and assist midweek. But it was a little bit unlike Newcastle, should we say, in that match. And we are looking at that squad, and that's been a big problem for them, has been injuries this season. And we went into the season saying, look, Newcastle are probably not ready to play Champions League football and to compete properly in the Premier League, just because of the quality of the first 11 is there, yes, but the second 11 quality isn't quite up to the standard that you'd expect so far. So Mickey van der Ven it is. Mickey and Rick, maybe we'll start calling him Ricky as a bit of a laugh here, guys. Mickey van der Ven. He's been brilliant. Josh, score prediction for the United game, 2-1. Just hope Bruno doesn't get booked. Carl's going to go with a 2-0 to United. Another 1-0, a win by 1 goal, another clean sheet. Everton were great. They'd be 10th without being deducted 10 points. Shout out to Josh for bringing us with that information. Roderick, Newcastle have been brutalised by those injuries. They really have. But similar to Tottenham Hotspur, this is basically injury FC versus injury FC, the battles of the injuries. But I do think someone like Anthony Gordon is going to have a field day. And guys, that is why he's been recruited into the Statman Dave FC team for this week in fantasy football. We're quickly just going to get the fantasy team up. We've gone for a double substitution, double transfer. We did it yesterday after a pretty pretty poor game week of 34 points. But Anthony Gordon's in, and also little Pedro Porro is sat on the bench. Not exactly sure what I'm going to do with Heung-min Son yet, whether I'm going to keep Heung-min Son or put Pedro Porro into the starting 11 and play 4-4-2. That's very much dependent on that injury news. But Gordon in my team. Why I think Gordon's going to excel in a game like this is that he excels in open matches. Superb against Chelsea on the left-hand side. Goal, an assist, had 3 shots in the game, created a single chance. But very much a counter-attacking player, Anthony Gordon, that excels when he's running at the opposition. Defensively, very, very switched on. But, in the Chelsea game, it was about him on the counter-attack, him carrying the ball and so forth. So I think that's a super important, part of his game and a super important part of Newcastle's game as well. Anyone's got a fantasy team or any things they need, do get into the chat. Radu's got Dubravka, Evans, Branthwaite, Saliba, Gordon, Dingara, Salah, Gordon twice, Watkins, Haaland, Ferguson. Yeah, definitely. I think that's good enough. But it's just whether if Son's fit, definitely playing for sure. Is Garnacho a good FPL pick? Yeah, I think he is. I think Garnacho's good. I think Scott McTominay's good. I think Andre Onana are good as well. In that, Sterling. Yeah, I think that's all right, Radu. To be honest, I think you'll be fine with that. In there. Hey Dave, talk about Onana's repeated mistakes in goal. Could be a problem. I think the weird thing with Andre Onana is that he's half like fixed. He's fixed his league form, and his Champions League form's gone out the window. So we look at Andre Onana from last season, it was the other way around, where his Champions League form was great. His league form was a bit suspect. And I think that is obviously, he's got to sort some technical things out. I am not a goalkeeper, so I don't want to go directly into those technical details. I believe his hands maybe a little bit too low is a problem. But we look at, the stats-wise. Flip this up. So stats-wise, over the season, so last season for Inter, in the Champions League, he saved Inter an additional 7.6 goals on post-shot expected goals. He had the Champions League season of his life. In Serie A, though, he was on a minus 2.7. So it was actually worse in the league, better in the Champions League. This season, he can't catch in the Champions League. In the Premier League, he's been pretty good. 3.75. An extra 3 goals he saved Manchester United. So overall, he's up by 1.1. The issue with Onana, though, is it seems to be like the easy ones he's letting in, which is a concern. And that's something that he needs to work out from a technical concentration perspective as well. Moving his feet, hands down at the right time, not parrying the ball into danger. All these types of things are super important. But I think there's improvement. There is improvement in recent weeks. It's just, he kind of reset himself again in the Champions League. Josh in the chat, what do you think about Girona versus Barca? Do you think Girona could stay in the title race? I think so, yeah, Josh, because they are funded by Manchester City. The funniest thing about Girona, obviously, the story is fantastic this year. Lovely story. Other teams come out the blue. If you've ever been to Girona, it's a tiny little town. In the Costa Brava, tiny little town. We used to go on holiday there as kids, but they are part of the Man City group, and we have to remember that they're getting funded by the City money, basically. And when you look at the players that they've recruited, they've basically bought players that are City type of players that either they can train and get to a point, like Salvio's obviously bought by City. He's a young player that's done exceptionally well in La Liga this season, 19 years old, 4 goals, 4 assists. You're looking at other players that City are probably keeping an eye on. Obviously, Eric Garcia was at Man City, and now he's again at Girona. Miguel Gutierrez is from Real Madrid. He's got quite a bit of potential as well, at just 22 years old, could eventually go to City. But this is a City team. And I think the football's great. Watch the football, but we've got to keep in our mind that it's not like a real surprise. This is always going to happen with the City project. That the teams that they have around the world get more and more competitive as the project is increasing in size. And and they have financial muscle. They have the power of the City group to recruit. Do I think they'll stay in the title race? Yeah, I think they will. I think they're good enough. They've got enough good players in there, and they've beaten enough good sides. Currently sitting second on just goal difference with Real Madrid, which is absolutely nutty. A small, insignificant team with a lot of money. Exactly. Girona and Manchester City, both small, insignificant teams. No offence to any City fans in the chat. It's just a joke. Anyway, guys, one last thing for today. Little project, or a little bit of fun I've been working on. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but we've got a coffee brand. So we've got a coffee brand, guys. We've been working on this for quite a while now. Finding like really good coffee and trying to link it with a story in football or a moment in football, or our starting coffee, which is very much linked to passion. And Arsenal Football Club. This will be live today. If you want to go to Kick Coffee right now, you can get your hands on it, but it's a Brazilian coffee that's absolutely delicious, like seriously really good coffee, and we've linked it to passion, the Brazilian word for passion, paixão, and we want to link it to the good times coming back for Arsenal. The Brazilian twist, obviously Gabriel Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel, the three Gabbies, are a key part of this Arsenal resurgence. So we wanted to find a coffee, the link with that tenacity, that creativity with Arsenal. So this is pretty cool. I'll drop a link into the chat if you want to go and check it out. Got loads more planned for it, in terms of different clubs and so forth. But yeah, it's just one of the things I've been working on at the moment. I'm pretty excited about. It's been really fun to kind of learn about coffee. I love coffee, and I'm learning even more about coffee right now. So yeah, if you wanted to get involved, just go and check that link out and whatnot. But nice little project. The guys, any more questions for this week, or is it time for Davey Boy to clean the house? That's what we've got to do next. It's a little bit boring, but that's life, isn't it? Ahmad in the chat's going to go with Onana, Trippier, Shaw, Garnacho, Salah, Rice, Son, Isaac, Watkins, Alvarez, and that's pretty decent. That is the coffee, man. It's out right now. Very, very, very good stuff. Any hint on Lisandro Martinez or Casemiro return date? I don't know if we'll ever see Casemiro play for United again. I don't think we'll ever see Rafael Varane play for United again. I don't like... I've heard some mad stuff this week from loads of different angles, from media to what they've been pushing out from a PR perspective to what's been going on in the dressing room, that you just think... It's a shame. It's a real shame, because Man United are an absolute mess right now. And the Ineos takeover is going to take more weeks and so forth. It's just super, super frustrating. But yeah, I don't imagine we'll see Casemiro and Rafael Varane play for United again, is how I'd put it there. Who you got in the Bundesliga, Dave? Leverkusen at the moment are great. Have you changed your opinions on Yusuf Fofana? Derek, no, I like him. I do like him. I just think I'd prefer other defensive midfielders as well. Just wondering if you still hope United qualifies for the Champions League. Oh, I don't know, Radu. Maybe not. I don't think they deserve it. I think is the long and short of it is I don't think United deserve to be in the knockout stage of the Champions League. I think they deserve to be in the Europa League, or maybe even knocked out of Europe completely. They've been so poor. The amount of goals that United have conceded in the Champions League, it's just simply not good enough. And it's a collective, of course, but in a group of Bayern Munich, Copenhagen and Galatasaray, United have conceded 14 goals in 5 games. They don't deserve to be in the next round. They really don't. I just think it's a huge problem. I prefer a DM that's a little bit more ball orientated, an Andre. Manu Kone would be a great signing, Mark. I think he's got that ability that I quite like in defensive midfielders. Simicon de Pass would be nice as well. Branthwaite's been very, very good. Radu, I'd prefer 4th to 3rd place in the group. Yeah, I just think it's just not deserved. They deserve to go out. They've been so open defensively. So open in there. But yeah, that's probably that for today. If we can't qualify, I want us to finish bottom, don't want the Europa League. Yeah, Josh, that's the problem with United. You've got to have this weird part where I'll be like, are we focusing on the Europa League again? And it's just like, either go in the Europa League and win it, or just sack it all off in there. Look, Klopp's gone, started a tournament, Europa League. Yeah, we want to win this. It's a serious competition for us. That's the mentality that United have lacked for so long. Bring back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. GG's in the chat, guys. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Again, if you want to check out Kick Coffee, link in the description. It's a great coffee. So all I can say, great coffee. Percentage of the profits will be going to grassroots football in the UK as well. So try to do the good things as well. From working in grassroots football, massively underfunded. I want to bring awareness to that because without grassroots football, we'd have no football players. Big GG's. Much love. We'll see you all very, very soon. Monday.